Welcome once again to the High Performance Human Podcast. It's your man Andy here. I am absolutely delighted to be joined by this gentleman, Avi Khan. He is a partner in a law firm. He is the group CEO of Ray White AKG, which is a series of offices up in Queensland. He's also the founder of the One Conference, which is a conference that is elevating the tone of the real estate industry. What else have you got? You've got loads of other things. My notes, right? Normally when I've got notes, Abby, my notes generally tend to fit quite nicely on one screen. With you, my man, my finger has to keep scrolling because the list of accomplishments and achievements and what you are up to. Team, he sounds dead corporate. He's even got himself a tattoo studio as well, just to throw in a bit of a different spin on things. And that actually gives you a bit of an insight as to who this guy is, to be honest. And he's also the director partner of a loan market franchise group as well. Aside from that, though, man, he's just a very, very down to earth, knows what he knows what he doesn't know, and does it in a very, very well. The impression that I got from you, mate, when I first met you not too long ago, was because I didn't know what to make of you from the outside. But then when I connected with you personally, it's very obvious that you just keep everything nice and simple in your head. Is that fair?
I think I try to keep it nice and simple, but that's fair. Like I don't try to complicate things. And, all those things that you've pointed out, it's just like a story behind how everything came about.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's designed, sometimes it's by default, but most of the times it's because I've got great people around me. So there's a lot of different stories to every single acquisition or every single business path that we've taken down. But yeah, like simple is the best way we can describe what we do. I think people overcomplicate things, don't they, Andy? So
Oh, they don't half do that, man. They don't half do that. Now, team, what you're going to learn today is that the level of success that you can have, it really, in a number of ways, and it's going to sound quite cliche, team, but in a number of ways, people do limit themselves in terms of what they feel that they can achieve. Now, as Abby just alluded to, he has done some things by premeditation, and he's done some things by, like he said, default, where he's just been right place, right time, right conversation, and he's just had a gut feel and given it a crack. But the one thing that I think will be unequivocal once you've had a listen to him is the fact that he's just a very, very straight up and down guy that isn't afraid to have a crack. And when you talk about it in terms of that, that is something that all of us can crack on with. So, Abby, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're a busy guy. For those people that don't know much about you, just give us a little bit of a genesis, a little bit of a background as to, like, where you come from and what got you to this point.
Oh, okay. Well, I was born in Fiji. Third of my life I spent there, then a third in New Zealand. I studied there, high school and university. Studied law and economics. Moved to Australia about 14 years ago. So a third of my life is in Australia now. So I'm a bit of a chameleon. I can be an islander, I can be a Kiwi, I can be an Aussie, or whatever you want to call it. So, um, but yeah, I studied law. Came to Australia to do that. 7 years in, I got bored. Was making good money. Had my first kid, and something had to give. Just wanted more time, and I thought real estate would give me that time that I wanted. Little I know, it just took all my time away. But I just love the people side of things was something that I enjoyed because I was getting kind of bored at what I was doing previously. Yeah, I just was lucky enough or unlucky enough in a way, but really grateful to start in an office where it was really competitive. Seven of the business partners were sales agents. So I had that inner drive that I didn't want to lose to them. I wanted to, make it as they did. And that's kind of started my journey and then led me to where I am now. So 10 years in the real estate industry now.
You said that you're born in Fiji, right?
Yeah.
You come across to me as someone of tremendous humility, not to be taken advantage of course, but someone that is very, very grounded in who they are. Do you think that was in part? Did that come from your your childhood and your upbringing over in Fiji, do you think? Like where did your level of humility come from? Because of all the people that I've had on, I mean, you of all people would have had the right to sort of be a little bit sort of proud of yourself, shall we say, in a sense?
Oh, I don't know. Like one of my favorite quotes of all time. There's a guy called Piers Morgan. You probably heard of him being in Nokia. Oh, so he's saying is, you can be the cock on the wall one day, a feather duster the next, and that kind of sits with me and resonates with me because whatever you do, like next day, you could be nothing, right? Like
Mhm.
you could lose everything, one bad decision, one bad person coming into your business. But Fiji was like it's a humble existence coming from Fiji. Like most people live there are in poverty. You know, we walk to go to K sometimes to get groceries and all these other things that I've seen poverty. I always say that I'm self-made. Um, I'm not poor because of my parents. I'm going to be rich because of them. They're saying that Cristiano Ronaldo says very well. So my thing was really good, and my family sacrificed everything to move to New Zealand, and we worked for everything since then. So it's I don't know. I think like when I look at the world now, it's like people just want everything without wanting to do the work to get there. One of the problems we have with the younger generation is like, hey, what's in it for me, sort of thing. And I remember my first job, I was like just lucky to have a job. Like when I was 16, like I did anything to try to get a part-time role. Now people are just given jobs and they just don't respect it. So I think coming back from that background, starting where I started, certainly helped me along the way
Yeah.
as the value of hard work. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. We're gonna come back to that whole topic in a minute. Before that though, a standard question that I ask all of our guests, yeah, what the definition of high performance human is. Now, I've got my belief that it's consisting of 4 elements: success, connection, influence, and happiness, and they all survive in a bit of an ecosystem with each other. What's your definition, Avi?
Look, I think my definition has been evolving of a performance individual. I think it's someone that can listen. There's a saying they've got two ears and one mouth. Someone who's there and listening and learning and being a sponge and being motivated. I always say to my people that I can't teach motivation. I mean, we try to get them speakers and people of stories to resonate with them, but we can't speak motivation. So someone has to be self-motivated. I think that's part of the process of becoming high performing, and someone that can actually understand the other person opposite them. What do they want? Like, where are they going? I always say to my sales agents and how to motivate the associates is that the associates have the same things that the agents want, whether it's like a nice house, a holiday, a nice car. So you got to know the man opposite you and what are they going to. The other thing that you touched on is relationships. I think that's been part of our success in our businesses because we've always just given things to people without a expectation of something coming back to us. And long term, those sort of things take care of itself. So relationships are crucial. And I think like the other thing is like you really have to. One of my favorite agencies in Queensland that's not railway, it's an agency called Place. They have this ethos about becoming a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all.
Mm-hmm.
But can you actually put yourself through the training process? Can you actually expose yourself out there? Put your hand up saying, hey, I don't know this. How can I improve? What I can do to become someone else? Who do I need to reach out to? So yeah, my definition of high performance individuals always evolving, depending on what time it is, depending on what day it is, depending on who walks into my business. And our role as as leaders has been to reach out to people that are doing better than us. As like see us on the socials doing study tours every month, reaching out to other people, speaking at other conferences, getting them to speak at ours. So it's always the curiosity of what someone else is doing out there that leads us to that level.
No, you've mentioned that it's an evolving process, and I've taken sort of 4 or 5 sort of keynotes from your definition there. When you first started on this track of business ownership, shall we say, you mentioned in your brief bio there, you mentioned the word board a couple of times and whatnot, right? So in terms of what really sort of made you click from a high performance point of view, at the very beginning, what do you think it was? And how and what do you think has been the biggest sort of shift in your thinking from when you first started out in business ownership to where you are now? Because you've got a plethora of experience across multiple facets, right? And multiple business dynamics and what have you. So, going from, part of a law firm into real estate, which, still white collar, but it's a different kind of white collar, and the tattoo parlor, which is just completely off to one side. But even when you talked about that, you seem to have a very consistent ethos. So how do you think that ethos has changed in the main from when you started to where you are now?
I think when you look at business or being an agent or doing anything in life, really, the thing that's really overrated is skill. And it might shock some people, but skill is so overrated. If someone comes with all these skills and know-how and everything, and they only do 3, 4 hours of work, you can beat them with 12 hours of work without any skill. So my first stage in my business career, or first stage as an agent or as a lawyer, was like I always just set out to outwork people. They always say volume is the answer to all your problems, and sometimes volume is all your problems too. But the more you do, the more you learn, and the more you expose yourselves to things. So that's the ethos that I started with. Is like, if I'm not passionate, I go back to the word bored. If I'm not passionate about something, I won't do 12, 14, 16-hour days. If I have that passion, then I will go crazy. I'll just like live and breathe that until I become the top person in it. So yeah, you outwork your competitors. Skill is overrated. If you got that passion, then you can do whatever you want. If you do it for 12, 14 hours a day, it's very unlikely that anyone will ever catch up to what you're doing. There's not many people willing to do that out there.
Well, absolutely. Now, I'm glad that you've said the word passion. Something that I've been marinating on relatively recently, Avi, which I'd like to get your opinion on now you've said it, is the inherent difference between, or the confusion, shall we say, between a passion and your purpose. Just doing some marinating and some reading up and whatnot, I've sort of come to a little bit of a conclusion that, having a passion, it has a shelf life, it has an expiry date. There is a finite amount of passion that we have for any one thing, whereas a purpose is a little bit more of a DNA. It's like within you to crack on, and it can really sort of identify which things you have a passion for that require you to have an external motivation, and then the ones where it's just in you to just rock and roll. You've talked about, you've just mentioned then about needing to have a passion for whatever it is you do, and I completely agree. You've got to be one-eyed, right, in order to do the number of hours and have the level of commitment that you've had. But if you were to put a definition on your purpose and how that then translates into your passions, what would it be roughly, do you think?
The purpose changes as well. So I'll tell you my initial purpose of leaving law to come to real estate is to create a life where it's balanced, right? I wanted to create income for me and my family, and I want to spend more time with my family. That purpose kind of changed over time because I'm like, all of a sudden, like, hang on a second, I have very little time. I have a little work-life balance. So that purpose kind of changed. So what can I do to create a business, a long-lasting business? What can I do now? My purpose is, what can I do to create more leaders in my business? So I can find that profitability. I can find that I'm growing people. I find that more fulfillment in my career, that I've actually created more leaders. I've helped create 4 or 5 business owners out there as well. So the purpose is evolving as well for me. At the moment, I'm looking at, I'm like, hey, so how long am I going to be doing this day in, day out? What's my purpose? Is it to retire properly, or is it to spend more time with my kids, or go pick them up from school? Or now I'm starting to have a little bit more holidays. I'll take 3, 4 weeks off in a year. So it's all changing, right? Like your passion helps you get there, but then your purpose always evolves into what you really want to do. Because you could come 2 years later and you say, hey, yeah, I've just wasted my life. This is where I thought I was going. This is what I thought I existed for. But it's actually not true. I'm just killing myself doing this. So I think that we have to like think about, it's like when business owners sit down and do business plans. This is my 5-year plan. This is my 10-year plan. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, it's never going to work. You don't know what you're doing 3 months later. Like, this opportunity comes knock on your door. You're like, you're not going to turn it down because, hang on a second, Steve, it's not in my business plan. I can't take it, So your purpose changes all the time. Like mine is like, I'm going to create a life and future for my kids now. and how am I going to find time to get out of my business and do more for myself and my family and, see the world a bit. So it's always evolving.
Yeah. So would you say though, because you talked about the word fulfillment and the growth of people, you mentioned that going into real estate was to try and create a balanced life, which is a very noble goal. It's just that if only you knew about the real estate space, right? If I, but,
Yeah.
but you would have noticed, you would have realized that fairly quickly, I would have thought, and yet you still maintain that path. So maintain this trip, and you've done extremely successful things in the space since you did make the decision to change. So if you were going into it with create a balanced life, um, how was that initial evolution? Because obviously you wanted to make that move to have more time with your family. You ended up having less time with your family.
Yeah.
So how did you, because this is something that you hear about from a lot of people that start their first business. They go from a PAYG, they go from a job to trying to run their own business. And they do it because they want to get more freedom, right? But it's like that meme, like you give up your 9 to 5 to end up working 24/7. So how did you compromise with that within yourself? And how did you level with that and say, right, no, okay, I'm accepting that this is my path for now.
So when you first start any other business or any job or even like real estate is probably the best for this example is that you feel like you know everything, right? The more you do, the more you realize how little you know.
Mm.
And real estate's one of those things. So I quickly came to the realization that it's that the key buzzword here is sacrifice.
Mhm.
You understand that in order for you to be successful, and don't forget, I'm deep into it. Like I've put everything else, I'm going down this path. You quickly realize that you'll have to sacrifice a lot to get what you want later on. That's what my journey was. I'm like, you know what? Stuff it. I'll do 18-hour days. I was letterbox dropping till 2 a.m. in the morning. That's sacrifice. Coming back up again, 7 a.m. letterbox dropping again. Like that's how badly I wanted what I wanted. But I realized that, in order for me to get there, I have to sacrifice a lot of things. And look, at that time, it seems like, oh my God, this is not good. What I'm doing, I'm not going to get there. It's so hard. But eventually you start hitting those goals and you're like, look, it's starting to work. People are starting to know who you are. People are starting to list with you. More people are talking with you. You're starting to saturate the marketplace, get your name out there. So yeah, it hits you straight away that this is what I wanted. I'm not going to get that unless I sacrifice a little bit of time to get there. And now like the sacrifice became longer. Now I'm starting to get there. Took a while, but now I have more time, more freedom to do the things I want to do in my life.
Is there anything that you've sacrificed that you look back and go, oh shit?
Yeah, look, I wish I took a little few more holidays.
Mm.
I wish I was a bit more learned about the world. I feel
In what
like
respect?
I feel like I've isolated myself to every time I go somewhere, it's like in the last probably 10 years, it's like Sydney, Melbourne, Fiji,
Mm.
like that's been what I've done. And so I feel like I've haven't grown as a human because I haven't like been out to the world, so to speak.
Okay.
Last few years, I've started to travel a bit to Europe and Asia.
Mhm.
My first trip to the States in February. So I that's one of the things I've like felt like I always wanted to travel more, but because I had two young kids, because I had all these businesses that I just couldn't get away from everything. But now I know if I'm go away for a week or 2 weeks, people have got the business under control. And it's not gonna fall apart. I've got great leaders. So I think my sacrifice, the other part has been like I haven't traveled as much as I would love to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You obviously would have missed, um, and this is something that a lot of parents really struggle to uh, sort of reason with. You would have sacrificed in amongst all of that time with your kids as they grow up, right? And for a lot of parents, they feel that they can't go and pursue their passions or their purpose because they feel that inherent obligation to be constantly there for their kids. How did you sort of reason with that? And were there moments where you really doubted that in your mind? Because I think that's something that does hold a lot of people back.
Yeah, so I was kind of to answer your question in a roundabout way. I was very fortunate that throughout my journey, I had some great mentors
Mm.
that kind of appeared because I called them, I reached out to them, and some of the things that they said to me is like, when you with your kids, be present. So Sunday's non-negotiable for me. It's like full day for kids time. I don't do any real estate, any business. So I feel like sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, if I give my kids the full Sunday, I'm probably spending a bit more time than other parents are. It's for one big way. So weekdays when I'm with my kids, it's kids' time. Nothing else matters. So I was really good at trying to carve out times that I can spend with my kids and make it really effective time rather than, what some parents might do is like watch TV or be on the iPad or be on your phone. So for example, like when I'm with my kids don't even know where my offices are. I don't bring them to work. They hate auctions. Sorry, Andy. I don't go to any auctions, any open homes with them. I took them to one. I realized I'll never take them again. Like, yeah, look, there is a lot of sacrifice with the kids, time with the kids and things like that with the family. But I think I kind of made the best of it by when I'm there with them, I'm there with them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And in your opinion, I mean, how much do you think people get more put off, or they become more apprehensive based on the perception of them as parents, as opposed to focusing on the internal and being content within your family unit? There's a lot of people. Like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, do you think that lots of people tend to fear taking leaps of faith or giving something a crack because of the fear of what people are going to make of them as parents? I've heard it. Umpteen number of times. Like when you're in social circles, oh, better there for the kids, da 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 da. But as you mentioned there, you made it work for your family.
Yeah, look, I think there's certainly comments always thrown around as well, but people don't understand the inner being that you are. Like for example, like there's the opposite as well. Like, oh, you haven't done anything, you haven't created a future for your kids. You get that a lot as well. Like it can go either way. So you get judgments regardless, right? But are you happy with how much time you spend with your kids and your family? That's the question. Are you happy that you're doing everything you can for your kids? Like you want to create a future for your kids, right? So
Yeah, man. 100%.
you want them to go to good schools. You want them to, you want enough money to pay for school trips and all the other things. So I think like when people say, "Oh my God, don't do a business. You're going to sacrifice time with your kids and stuff." There's enough time in the day to make everything work. There really is. It's just a matter of how you use your time. Everyone always asks me, "How do you do this? How you do that?" I'm like, I just know what I'm doing. If you see my calendar, Andy, it's like packed. There's literally 5-minute breaks here, 5 minutes break there, but I pack everything in a day and I know I can get it done.
Yeah.
It just depends on the individual and like we get too caught up on what other people think, what other people say, but like their opinions don't pay your bills, right? So
Very, very true. Very true. And seeing that's definitely one little quote for your notes there. Your opinions do not pay your bills. That is absolutely a
yeah.
statement fact right there. Now, I wanted to take a little bit of a turn and go off in a direction when it comes to assessing opportunities, because you have been an amazing proponent of just being calculated in some instances, just having a crack in other instances, and the variety in which you seem to have approached new opportunities has been something that one of the early things that's made me have tremendous amount of respect for you, because you don't seem to have a one size fits all policy when it comes to assessing opportunities and whatnot. So give us a bit of an MO, just a general sort of MO as to what goes on internally and externally, logic and emotion, with respect to when an opportunity comes your way or comes across your desk.
Yeah, look, and that's something else that I've evolved in and how I look at opportunities. So real estate perspective, I'll give you a bit of a chat about real estate because one of the ways I looked at, I do a lot of study tours of other successful principals and other successful business owners. I probably do more than anyone else, I would say. I went down to see a gentleman and he asked me, look, how many rentals do you have? And I said to him, this, and this. He goes, what do you go to the bank? I was like, nothing. And he goes, what the F is wrong with you? And I'm like, what do you mean? Right. He's like, you should be borrowing to buy. It's like you're having 10 houses and not saying, I'm done, I'm not going to buy anymore. You've got all this equity sitting there, you're not doing anything with it. So that kind of like I was always thinking of not getting into debt at that stage. It's 2 years into my business life cycle. I'm like, I don't want debt. I didn't have any credit cards. The only money I owe is like the tax bill every 3 months, and it kind of changed my mindset as to like embracing debt. So from there, my journey from there, I went on to buying 3 more real estate businesses. And I looked at every purchase that we made, and we're like, actually, look, this works out for profitability. This works out for profile. We've actually, with those purchases, got great people into our business as well. And we started, Andy, creating, I don't know if you're very good to grapes, but we started creating this flywheel effect of our business. So, and that way has changed my mindset into acquisitions or buying businesses or starting new businesses. Because all of a sudden, I'm like, I've just bought these 3 businesses in 3 years and it kind of paid themselves off. So why aren't I doing more, and why aren't I doing anything else? And then I looked at what I can do that kind of fits in with real estate, right? What we wanted to do is build an ecosystem for our clients, for our agents. So our people, whether it's our clients or our agents, don't leave us and more people want to come with us. So can we add law firm services to them? Can we add financial services to them? So we started thinking about this, and we went down the law firm path because we were really frustrated with conveyancers out there. They were getting in the way of deals rather than getting out of deals. So we decided with my business partners to create an agency, a law firm that was designed by agents for agents. So to give you a perspective, we don't market to clients at all. There's no marketing to any buyers or sellers. We just say to the agents, this is what we can do. And we work with agents exclusively. So we went down that path of what can we do to add to our real estate portfolio that helps our existing business. Because once we refer from our businesses, we're like, we don't make losing any money. So it allows us to grow that business again and again. And same thing with our finance branch. We did that, looked at them like, is it got the right people in it? Will it take away from my current business dealings? Probably not. I'll spend a bit of my time there, but it can grow with the law firm. What can we do? And we strategically put that in Sydney because all our clients, investors were coming from Sydney as well. So how does it help our real estate business? So now the law firm can do Melbourne, Sydney, Tasmania, Adelaide, Brisbane. We do like 4 or 5 different states. So it's worked out well for us.
Yeah.
And we just look at the opportunities and the people. So we've recently started a media branch, and that helps everything that we do in AKG. But what we found is that it's actually bigger than AKG now. So the other day we did a wedding, we did a car shoot. We're doing the cool things that we never thought we were going to do. And that's, for me, it's like refreshing as a business owner, as a leader, because it rejuvenates my mindset. It makes me learn other industries, work with other people. And I'm like, how can I improve my business dealings with what I have here, with the learnings that I have in the other businesses? So, and then Andy, it's also, it's like so fruitful for me because I'm helping other leaders grow businesses as well. And they're helping me as well because they're helping me understand different businesses and things like that. So it's just the people that will fit into what we're doing, fit into our ethos. Is like, do they have the same moral compass as us? That's a very big thing for us. We don't want to deal with dickheads. We want to deal with people that, whether it's female or males, that are thinking the same way as us. We can trust each other. And that's how the tattoo firm came about as well. It was just an opportunity that was presented to me, and my accountant said, yep, go for it. And it's doing really well. But what I've gone there and I've learned the way the tattoo company works, that, how do people buy ink? How do people buy needles? And how do you pay for these things? I said to one of my staff members the other day, real estate's like sometimes it's very problematic with clients, when you're in rental business, dealing with tenants. So I go in the tattoo shop, if I sit there for an hour, there's sometimes people with just $200, $300 in their bank account, Andy, and all they want is a tattoo, and they're the happiest people you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Change your mindset, your approach to life. Yeah. So I deal with people selling $4 or $5 million homes to people wanting to get a $200 and $150 tattoo. So it's a great mix of diversity for me. And then it's making me a better leader in so many different respects in other industries and other roles that I do.
Have you ever had a moment where you look at yourself in the mirror and go, well, I've bitten off a little bit too much here?
There certainly are those moments, and I probably went through this probably 2 years ago, Andy.
Right.
And then my the people that I talk to, my mentors and everything else, what I did was build a very, very deep leadership bench. And when I say I built it, it's probably a bit exaggeration there because we built it with the leaders around us.
Okay.
So with all the businesses that I own, including our real estate, we've probably got 14 leaders
Mm.
that lead everything else. We've got 3 or 4 shareholders across different entities, different businesses, rental business, tattoos, media company, loan market, finance. There's definitely other businesses there, but the main ones, there's other people leading it now, which allows me to be in the growth mindset to help them in the business things. But the people leading the media team, I want to get out of their way because they're 10 times better at their job than I am.
Yeah.
They're 10 more creative than I am. The people leading the brokerage and the finance stuff, they're 10 times better than me at that. They're 10 times better at working with clients than me in that. And the law firm as well. I don't touch any deals. I'm not involved in any conveyancing, anything like that. The solicitor that is a partner with us, he knows it 10 times better than me. So I want to get out of his way. So there was a moment that I said, I'm doing too much. But then when we build that together, I feel like I've got so much capacity now.
The really interesting thing for your notes team is when you listen back to that little section that Abby's just explained there, the thing that he said on multiple occasions was that he knew that someone else was either better at it than he was or knew more than what he knew. Okay. And what I'm deducing from that is that, Abby, you know quite clearly what you bring to the table, and you quite clearly understand what you are missing from the table as well. And the ability, and I think when you talk about identifying leaders, to be able to identify 14 that you can collaborate with and work with as well as you are doing, it needs to have a level of vulnerability and understanding in what you aren't capable of, which is, I think, something that a lot of people that are either wanting to get into business ownership or leadership, they don't feel like they have the space to understand what they don't know as much as what they do. Is there ever been an occasion where you've found yourself being caught a little bit short with respect to skill set, knowledge set, or anything like that, when all of a sudden something's caught you off guard and you've gone, oh shit, hold on, and then had to work on finding the right collaboration or something along those lines?
Yeah. Look, we made several mistakes in the last 10 years, like several, and some of them have cost us 50, 60, 70K, right? I would say to the team, like, every mistake in business will cost you money. Let's not make it again. But here's the thing, like, I have this saying that people always laugh at me. They're like, it doesn't go together. I'm like, okay, cool. We want to be in the arena. We want to be the gladiators in the arena. We don't want to be Taylor Swift in the bleachers, right? As long as we're in the arena, I'm happy. We'll get things on. But if we're on the sidelines just watching, like, and not maybe like mistakes, not costing us money, then that's boring, right? Like, who wants to just be watching from the sidelines? If you want to be in a business, just get in there. So we're battling it out there, yes. And there's been several mistakes. There's things that cost us money. But if we don't take random stabs at things sometimes, calculated stabs, then what's the point of being in business? You got to take risks. And this is the thing that I sort of work with all my leaders is like, how can we look at the risks that we're taking, try to calculate those risks? What's the best way to minimize it? Minimize loss? What's the best way to maximize earnings? Let's have a go at it. And I always encourage them to bring stuff to me like, hey, let's do this project. Let's do this project. How much is it going to cost us? Let's have a go. And yeah, mate, we've made some huge errors. But if you don't make errors, you won't get wins along the way. So, like, don't be afraid. That's what I would tell people. Don't be afraid of getting shit wrong.
I love that you got very passionate very quickly there, mate. He's like being on the sidelines. It's boring, man.
And mate, like, you know how much criticism we get from people, like, you guys are doing this, you guys are doing that, like, what the hell, what's wrong with you guys? Like, why would you do this? Why would you do that? I'm like, mate, it's fine. Like, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. We'll move on to the next opportunity,
What's been one or two of the bigger criticisms that you've had in recent memory around certain chances that you've taken?
I think the thing that kind of annoyed me the most, and I don't know why because I'm totally over it now. It's we do as a team, as a leadership team, we do travel a lot to Sydney. Um, I'll tell you why we do that because 60% of our buyers and sellers are based in New South Wales.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we can't do prospecting the traditional way in some respects. We've got great leaders who always tell us that real estate's the only industry where you know where your clients live.
Mm.
And we say, hang on, no, that's not accurate anymore.
Yeah, fair.
The state barriers are breaking down now. People buying land, New South Wales, Melbourne, not so much Melbourne anymore. It's a bit down at the moment. No idea, right? But the thing is, like, it's like the borders are breaking down. So we said to ourselves, we want to keep the fundamentals of real estate strong, which is belly to belly, which is face to face. So we do like every month, two or three of us will fly down, meet with the buyers agents, brokers, our referrers, our top landlords, someone who's selling a house is having problems with something. Like we'll do that. So the criticism that we've got is like, don't work for them, don't go with them. They're always in Sydney. And it kind of got to us, right? And we're like, yeah, but you're always on your couch.
What's-
Now we want to work with you. You know what I mean? What do you want? Someone who's hustling. The thing is, the people don't understand the concept of time.
Right. Yes.
Time to do everything. Like just because, like the other criticism, Andy, is like, oh, they're always at dinners. I'm like, so what do you guys eat at 7 o'clock at night? Like, do you have dinner? Like, it just so happens that our dinners are working dinners more than yours are, which is, I think most people would say, wow, let's do. Well, how can we get there too? Like, how can we have that balance between family working dinners and stuff? So yeah, I think the criticism is like sometimes we don't call them haters in our business. We call them confused admirers. So they want
admirers. I love that.
to be what we're doing. They don't understand it. They're confused about it. So they criticize us. But it got to us a little bit, probably a couple of years ago. And we're like, you know what? It's working for us. And now, Andy, it's so funny because now we see competitors trying to do the same thing. And we're just like smile and wave, you know. But yeah, there's always like those sort of criticisms, but it's actually our strength. So we're not going to make it our weakness. So we double down on it. Now we did Melbourne as a result. You know, now we go to New Zealand to meet our clients. We've got so many buyers agents referring to us. No one else could say this in our marketplace. We've created relationships with them that other people haven't.
And those relationships, they're only ever going to grow by going and, like you said, pressing flesh, shaking hands, kissing babies, and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah, and showing substance is the main thing, like showing substance.
Exactly.
So we know how to do that, and my team know how to do that. So it works for us.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. Now, I really want to ask you before I have to let you go about this whole topic of time, because you've said that's from what it sounds like, you have a belief that the way in which you handle your time is possibly one of your biggest strengths. I would have thought, right? For a lot of people, again, they feel that, especially those that have kids, and I keep bringing that into play because it's something that is legitimately a problem for a lot of people in terms of psychological hurdles. They feel that time is something that they simply do not have enough of. And sort of relating it back to the earlier part of the conversation when we were talking about your balancing act with respect to your kids' time and whatnot. Yeah. I know for a fact that in my over my trip, the incredible senses of guilt and whatnot have crept in at various times, and I've only relatively recently come to understand the importance of setting boundaries. You talked about, you know, being present, making sure I'm there when I'm there, and what have you. When it comes to allocating time, and obviously with your businesses, you will have spot fires, you will have sort of curveballs that fly at you and what have you. But give us a bit of a rundown as to your ethos with respect to how you trade your time.
So I've had a lot of changes in my time and what I do. So for example, say my agents can book me weekly, fortnightly, or monthly. It's up to them.
Mm-hmm.
Before, like my old days as a principal, I was chase them up. When are you going to book me? When's this booking? When are we going to go? Now I let them decide. So I'm trying to spend time with the people that want to spend time with me. That's one thing. Second thing is like I'm telling my leaders now, like I've got a great leadership bench, is like the less I decide, the better for everyone. So don't come to me with things to decide. You guys have got the ability to do it, just go do it. So those little things, Andy, that create so much time for you to do things you want to do. I used to come to work at 7 a.m., 7:30. Now I'm at 9 a.m.
Yep.
So I'm an early riser. I get a lot of things done in the morning. So when I come to work, I don't have to, think about what I'm doing, where I'm going. Everything's just done. The firefighting you talk about, it's the team do a lot of it themselves nowadays. So we've trained them. You sacrifice a lot to train people, and to think like you, to think like themselves, but to have that thinking ability to solve issues and crises. So they do that as well now. So it's about sacrificing that time to get people to just start doing that stuff for you. There's calendar pieces in my calendar no one can book. Whether it's kids' time, whether it's personal time. At the moment, I'm struggling with for time to go to the gym and work out. That's my real struggle now, because I feel like I've got everything going well. Just don't have time to work out. I used to run 20Ks a week. Now I don't get to do that as much. That's a problem. So, mate, it's very doable. Like if people are feeling guilty that they don't spend time at work or they don't spend time with their kids, set boundaries and expectations with your staff. Tell your wife or your partner when you're gonna have time with your kids. People start to understand why you're doing what you're doing. And I think like my family now understand what I do and my time and how it's precious, and when I can spend time with my kids or my partner. So it's evolving like anything else, but you're never gonna get it right. But I think once you communicate to your team, I think they start to respect it more and more. And it's funny because they have the same challenges as me.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? It doesn't matter what position you are in, whether you are a startup bootstrapping or whether you are in the position that Avi's earned, which is, head of a few businesses with people underneath you and whatnot. You still will have there will always be similar decisions, similar dilemmas, similar issues that you'll have, just at different scales, right? So what I think is going to be absolutely critical for your notes team is what he mentioned there about it's not the setting of boundaries that's perhaps the missing link. It is the communicating of said boundaries to key stakeholders that it impacts. So whether it is your partner, your spouse, your husband, your wife, your kids, and I think that I think nowadays we need to give even the younger kids a lot more credit than what we give them for how aware they are as to what's going on in the world. I mean, I know about you, man, but my 10-year-old daughter, like the level of emotional intelligence and the amount that she is aware of in the world is chalk and cheese compared to when me and you were 10.
I totally agree. Sometimes my kids say something, I'm like, where did you get that from?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Honestly. And I think what we need to do is we need to really acknowledge the fact that they are, through exposure, if nothing else, they are more advanced as younger kids. So we need to make sure that we're communicating with those guys as well, because without that level of communication, you are going to leave yourself open to concern. You are going to leave yourself open to upset because they aren't aware as to why you need to do what you do. And I think that's something, Avi, that you clearly get right, is that, whether it is the right decision or the wrong decision is irrelevant, because you are setting your intention and being able to communicate that intention appropriately to the right people that it affects.
Yeah, no, 100%. I remember my first meeting with Brian White. You probably all know Brian White. Like he said to me, "Do you know what you want?" And secondly, "Do your staff know what you want?" He's like, "There's the two simplistic things that will set you a good set in your businesses." And I think about it every time. Like, do I know what I want? And because most of the times, Andy, you and I, as business owners or operators, we know what we want.
Yep.
But the problem is that we haven't been able to communicate that effectively, or we just maybe haven't wanted to communicate that to our staff, to our team, to our family, to everyone else, that, this is actually what I want. And this is what
Why do you think that is, man?
I think sometimes people are scared of what people say. Sometimes people think it's private. Sometimes people think that, people like, should can their dreams and aspirations, or it's too big or stretched dreams, it feels like they come back down to earth sort of thing. And I just think like as leaders, like communication is an ongoing education for all of us. Like we're learning to communicate better and better and better every day. Like none of us are perfect in how we communicate. And it's this old saying that everyone needs to be communicated in a different way as well. Like, and that's probably what I struggle with. I'm trying to understand how everyone wants to be communicated to, not in like WhatsApp or text message, but the tone. Because then sometimes when you talk to people, they stop listening.
Oh, big time, man. Big time. Yes, absolutely. And you see that in all walks of life, whether it is a customer or whether it is your better half who is clearly getting bored off the tits because you're just waffling on about some crap, right? So it happens. It happens to all of us. Man, I really value your time, and I'm very conscious that I want to get you away on time. So I could sit and talk to you for a heck of a long time, though. I really, really could. You're a fascinating character, man, and someone that I think has earned, I don't think, I know, has absolutely earned the respect that is getting paid to you nowadays. I'm sure that you will have had times where you felt that you were fighting up against it a little bit, but now you are very much one of those people that is unequivocal that people can see the scars, they've seen the journey, and now they really appreciate the man as well as the operator. So many congratulations to what you've achieved. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's thoroughly deserved, clearly. Now, one last question though, my man. We always ask is, as you mentioned, and you might have alluded to it just before, but we're all looking for the next evolution of what we deem as high performance, and you will have aspirations. I'm sure this is far from the end of it for you.
Yeah.
But in your pursuit of your next version, what is the one thing that you feel you need to improve on, or the one thing that you think is missing from your game at the minute in your pursuit of the next level of high performance for you?
Oh, there's so many things that I'm missing in my game, but I'm trying to widen my belief system of what I can actually achieve, and I'm getting talking to people.
You are?
Yes, I think I'm still limited in my belief. To do with who I have in my team and surrounding us. There's lots we can do. Like like I've seen so many people do so many great things, and I'm like, why am I limiting myself to this? Like operating in local markets or not opening certain business with certain people. Like, what am I like? I'm too limited in the way. I want to get out of so many other things to limit my mind and grow everything else. The second thing is I'll say, which is might surprise people, is that we need to get back to the fundamentals more. That's the struggle that I have for me and my team, and we're different teams because I think we're getting lost. Don't get me wrong, I love AI. We're embracing it, as you know. I love technology. We're probably one of the most forward-thinking technology industry, real estate, and our business is embracing everything as well. But what we're losing is the human touch because we're creating lazier people. I'm not saying people are lazy, but I think the technology is kind of creating lazier people. So my goal is being like in the last 3 months is like, can I drum the fundamentals up? The belly to belly prospecting, the belly to belly meets, which is face to face. If you can't meet someone, if you can't talk to someone, if there's no text, there's no emails coming out. I'm really struggling with that at the moment to how to enforce that across all my businesses. Trying to find the right way because this technology is sexy, right? AI is sexy. Text messages are still kind of sexy. Like that's what people are running towards. Relationships are paramount more so than before. It's actually bigger. It's a bigger thing than ever before because how many people you message and text you haven't even met. So that's one of the challenges with what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to make sure I do things the right way. And people like nowadays people will be like, this could have been a text when you call people, right? And I'm like, whoa. But in the old days, you're like, why don't they just call me? Pick up the phone. Now we're saying the opposite. So like, how do we change that? Because the person with the relationship will always win, regardless of skill, regardless of what you're offering. So it's much bigger than ever before because the lazy way of communicating is prevalent right now. So the people that can get through that will win the day.
I think you've touched on a couple of things there. I think the amount of times we use the word relationships, I think is actually becoming detrimental because I actually believe that that's becoming white noise in a number of respects. I've been referring to it a lot more recently as the art of the human, or the art of the humanization, right? The artistry around engaging someone on a property. And the reason why I've been thinking that is I've been doing a lot more on site buyer role plays with agents and whatnot, and the inability to paint a picture is something that I think many of us would do well to really refocus on, because I think just the artistry of tapping into the emotional psyche, right? I think's really critical. But you're absolutely right. The thing that really surprised me, I think the first one surprised me more. Of all the people that could have said limited thinking, you ain't one of them, man. You are not one of them. That is insane. But that just makes me more excited to follow your journey that little bit more.
Well, there's more cutting. Just buckle your Philly belts.
Wow. He's got tattoo shops. Next thing we know, he's gonna have some sort of artesian bloody pizza shop, or he's gonna end up running clubs and all this sort of jazz down the Gold Coast or something.
You know, it's a funny story. The most successful person I've ever met, in my opinion, is a guy who made ice, like actual ice cubes.
I was gonna say, glad you clarified that.
Yes. Ice cubes. I met him in New Zealand, and he told me he was worth about $80 million. He's started his career selling ice cube to different clubs. And he was driving a Lamborghini, so I can't argue that he's probably not worth that much. But it's crazy, right? Like we limit ourselves so much, but here's a guy selling $2-3 bags of ice cubes. I should say ice cubes.
Yes, thank you.
And
You're talking Walter White, gang. Mate, what a there really is. And sometimes, and you talk about the overcomplications of life that we're sort of going through right now. Selling ice, like, does it get much more simple than that? Really?
yeah, and it's very cool. Get it?
Just a joke, mate. Love a good dad joke, my man. What a great way to end with a dad joke. Love it. Avi Khan, man, I cannot thank you enough. It's an absolute delight to have properly connected with you and shared the mic with you today. And moving forward, I'm sure we'll get to have some fun down the track at some stage or another. But man, thank you for your time. I know how valuable it is, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and hopefully there's some value for your listeners out there. Thanks, man. Pleasure.
100% there is. Team, I'm sure you'll have plenty of notes. I'll make sure that Avi's details in terms of his social connects and all that sort of jazz, and all the links to his various entities will be in the show notes, so you can have a good butchers at what he's up to and how he goes about it. But from me and Avi, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you stay safe, healthy, and happy as always, team. And we'll speak to you again on the next episode. Take care.